Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello crafters, welcome to my channel if you're new here. Welcome back if you're a subscriber. Today I'm going to share with you how I made this. It's the 5x7 triple tier slider card, and this is a die set that I used. It's made to surprise dies, and Sam has got a great range of videos out using these dies and other add-on pieces, and this is my version of what I would do with these dies. So this is a triple slider. When you get a triple slider, you have two areas that pop out. So you have the top part which pops out. You can put a sentiment or whatever you like there, and then you have a second part that pops out. Now when I saw this, I was inspired by a card Gemma from Gemma Lee Crafts made, and it was in this orientation with a sports car. And when she pulled out her layers, she also had another tab that moved the sports car over and back. And I thought, I wonder if I could come up with an idea for doing that, where when you pull the actual slider card itself, it pops out. So this is my version of it. So when you pull the top one out, as this middle one comes out, our little pig flies up in the air. And I'm sorry it's not in the whole way, but there you go, look. So our little skiing pig, he flies up in the air. And then we have Santa, we have a lovely moon that I have used the Tim Holtz moon stencils to put on that. The pigs and the penguins that are in this are from the Creative Stamping magazine, and they are made to surprise stamps that were in that, and I just thought they were so cute that I used them in this card. Now the one we're going to make is different. We're going to use some balloons and some gift parcels, and the balloons, as we pull this up, it's going to say happy birthday, and the balloons are going to go up into the air. So that's the card that we're going to make today. So now, what do you need to make this card? Well, I'm going to move this card over here out of the way, and I'm going to show you the products that I have used. So all together, now I know these dies that I'm using are not available anymore. I will leave links down below to product that is available. A lot of this, when Sam brings out dies and mechanisms, they sell out. So it's for those who are like me, who like to purchase these and who want some more inspiration. Sam and Gemma do lots of inspiration for the dies that they bring out and their stamps, and I'm just adding to it. So I'm going to use this. It's the surprise stamp and die set. I'm going to use the balloons. These are my balloons here. I've coloured them in using the Spectrum Noir tri-blend markers, and I'm also using the gift piece here as well. Now I've cut mine short. Rather than do the whole spray, I've just taken this cluster here at the bottom. I die cut it out, and then I just fussy cut around this area that I wanted out separately. I also took, there's extra little gift boxes in this one, and I've taken one and I have coloured it in, and I've put it at the bottom of the balloons, just so that rather than having the end of the strings like you can see here and like you can see in the image here, I wanted to have the gift box coming out. So this is how it's going to sit on the card, and then as you pull the card out, this is going to come up with the little gift box at the bottom. So that's my idea there for that. So they're the two main pieces on the front of our card. I'm going to use this stamp set. It's the Moving Along Sentiments, and it's an A5 stamp set, and I am using the Wishing You Lots of Love on Your Birthday. This is a birthday card for my son-in-law, Jens. And I'm using this paper pack. It's the Puppet Pets 5x7 paper pack. I just wanted the sky image here. This is the image I had. I thought it would be nice to have the balloons on there like so, and my gift box is there. And what I did was, when this die cuts out, it die cuts out this, it doesn't take out the center image. So I took one of my tri blends, it's the True Blue blend. I used the light mid-tone and colored in. I still left my white border around the edge, so I tend to color on the other side, on this side of the string line of our balloons, and it still gives me the white outline around it. But I thought that would be cool coming up from this background. So I've used 2 pages of this for my card. And then finally, these are the dies in question. They're the triple tier slider card die set. So what you will need from these, and there's such a lot of dies in there, I have them on both sides. The dies come in a plastic bag inside this piece. I cut it down like this, and then I add my dies onto a magnetic sheet. I just find visually it helps me to see my dies and what I want to cut out, and it also stops me from losing dies, because I don't want to lose any of them. So that's how I store my dies, and they go inside this wallet, which is sealed on 2 sides and open on 2, and it sits in there. So now let's go through all the pieces that you're going to need for this card. So you'll need a 5x7 card base. Now I purchased the 10x7 card bases from CraftStash, and you can either have it open at the side or open at the top. What I did was, this came to 10 inches by 7, so I cut it down the middle, and it gave me then my 5x7 top folding card base. Now if you don't have this, you can cut yourself a piece of 5x7.5 and score it then at 1/2 inch on the long side. That'll give you a tab at the back. You can then attach that to a piece of 5x7, and that'll give you a 5x7 top folding card. So you'll need one of those for this. You'll also need one of the large dies, and I'll show you that here from the pack. So this one here is the large die that you're going to need, and it'll give you this wrap. You will need a bigger format die cutting machine for this to go through, because it is 7 inches by 10.5, I think it is, or it could be less. I'm not too sure. I haven't measured these. I'm going by the dies. Sam does have a tutorial on how to make this without dies. I'll link that below in the description of the video, so that if you want to make this and you don't have the dies, you can go over there and watch Sam's video. So you'll need one of these. You'll also need one of these, which is this piece here. This is part of the mechanism that's going to help slide. You'll need one of these as well, and that's that piece here. You'll need one of those. Then I've taken this largest die and this die, these 2 dies here, and that's going to give us our mat and layer for the very front of our card. So that is going to sit on there like so. And onto that we will need to do some cut lines, and that's the cut line there that our little flying pig is able to slide up and down. Now I think with our balloons, because of how we're going to situate our balloon, you won't see that cut line, and then when this piece is pulled up, your piece here is going to come right up. So I think your cut line is going to be pretty much hidden, but I mean, you do need that in order for it to slide. So I'm going to tell you now how to do this. So you need to measure in. I have matted and layered my cardstock together. I've used my collal glue. When the collal glue dries, it's going to be really strong, really hard, so it's a good base for us. What I've done is I've measured over on the pattern paper. This pattern paper measures 4 1/4. So I've measured over to the middle, which is 2 1/8. I've then come down a 1/2 inch. So from my mark, I've come down, which is the top of the pattern paper, I've come down a 1/2 inch. From that 1/2 inch, I have then measured down, and I have measured down 4 inches. So starting from here down to here is 4 inches. This is the cut line that we're going to make to let our balloons slide up and down. And the mechanism for this is really simple. All it is this. It's a piece of cardstock. Now this is a little over 1 1/4 inches. You could cut this at 1 1/2 inches. Mine is 1 3/8 inches, and it's only because that's the size the piece of card was that I made, so I haven't changed anything. So cut this at 1 1/2 inches by 5/8. You could have it 1/2 inch, you could have it 1/4 inch. You can make it as big or as small as you want, it's up to you. But I have made it 5/8 of an inch, and then I have folded it in the middle, and I didn't even measure it, I just folded it in half like that. This piece is going to slip through here, and then we're going to attach it to the next layer that comes out, and it will simply slide up and down along there like that through our cut that we're going to do. And this piece we'll stick our balloons onto that piece, and then that will literally bring it up and down. It's so simple, guys, but it works so well. My thing is, keep it simple, stupid. It'll make it easier for me every time I want to use it. And that is all it is. Where this piece slots through on the other side, it's going to stick onto the piece that pops up. And where we place this is quite important. And I'll get to that when we get to that part. So that's all the pieces that we need for the front of our card. So that's what's going on here. That's the wrap. The mechanism is inside and the front of our card. So the next piece we want then is for the second piece that pops up. So we want one of these, which I'm calling the wrap. I don't know what Sam calls it, but it's this piece here if you have the dies. Also, we need this piece here, which is the large sliding mechanism, which is going to go in here. And then again, we need one of these pieces here, and that's going to slot through here and fold over. So we need those. Then we need this. It's these two dies here. One is my matte layer and one is my pattern paper. Our little piece then of our mechanism, this piece is going to sit here. We're going to measure where the middle of this is, and it's going to line up with the middle of this piece here. I'm going to find the center of this piece, and I'm going to measure up a 1/2 inch. And what I will do is I will stick this piece on here. This will stick on like so, and then this little tab will come through our slot, and that's what's going to make it rise up and down when we pull this piece up. That's how it's going to work. It's very, very simple, but it's made simpler because we have the dies. But you can do the, you can make this version without the dies and just then do what I'm doing here to add on to the front of it. And then for a finish, we have this piece, which is the piece that we pull up and which pulls out everything. So this piece here is this one here, and that's these two dies. You can see here we have two dies, and then we have these 3 dies. You can do 3 layers because we have 3 dies, or you can do 2. I just went with 2 because I'm keeping it simple. This piece can slide in here. It can go in here and it can hide behind, and you can use this to die cut out a little pull tab. So you would attach that on here, and then this is the piece that you would see, and you would pull this up. But you can also turn it around this way, which is what I have done here. You can have it in this orientation and pull it up that way. And that's what I've done. So it's up to yourself. I think anyone who sees this will look at this piece here and go, oh, what's that? Oh, that's lovely. And then they will realize they can pull the whole thing up. So if you want to have that turned this way, die cut out your little piece and put it on here, and then type or stamp or write pull onto that, and you can have it up here so people know to pull this piece out. But I didn't like the idea of having a pull here. I just like the sentiment. So now that is all our pieces. What I want to do now is show you something else, something I found really handy. So when you want to take your image and stamp it, whichever image or whatever image, if you have an image that you can stamp and then die cut, I really recommend that you take a piece of cardstock and that you die cut out your piece first. Once you've that done, sit the die cut piece into your stamping platform. I hope you can see it there. I'm not keeping an eye on my screen. So you sit your die cut piece in there, and then you take this piece. Now what I did was I took my stamp and I set it in there, and you'll feel it's like a jigsaw piece. It'll fit in there nicely, and once you have that in there, fit in nicely, you can then take your stamping platform and lift it up, and once that's on there, you can then pop this piece in. Now you can use a little piece of a low-tack tape on the back of this piece. You can use a tape runner. There's a low-tack tape runner I have. It's the Diecut and it's the blue one. But I find it sits in there lovely. Then you get your ink and you put your ink on here. I'll show you. I like to use the VersaFine Clear. If you ink up your piece nicely like that, you can then go ahead and stamp your image, and it'll stay in place. So if you need to add a little bit more pressure or do a second inking, you can do that, and then you have your piece is nicely put in. So the alcohol markers that I'm using are the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers. The first colour I'm using is Jade Green Blend that you can see here. Now, I'm not a professional at colouring. I would class myself as kind of beginner, maybe a little bit better than beginner, but like I'm definitely no Jennifer Maguire or Frugal Crafter or any of the other great colouring people. Yeah, so I'm just leaving it in because I want you to see that you don't have to be brilliant to colour. Sometimes I start with my lightest colour, then I'll do my dark and my mid and back to the light. And sometimes I'll start with my dark colour, then go mid and then light. I really have no rule of thumb how I colour, and you'll see it, even though this is quite highly sped up, you'll see that I'm doing it different ways. And you know, I think just take your time. Don't put any pressure on yourself that it has to be perfect, or you know, you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. Colour for fun. Colour for enjoyment. I was actually chatting away with my friend, my crafty friend Benita. We were video chatting and crafting away together, and I was colouring this in. So half the time I was looking at her, half the time I was looking at what I was colouring, and yeah, I was just doing it nicely because at the end of the day, I'm going to put some glossy accents over these, and you know, that kind of hides it. But again, this isn't, you know, a printed image that you'll get that's done perfectly. This is just my version of how I do it, you know. My balloons, then I will leave them as they are. And like I said, I'll add some glossy accents over the top, or accent glaze, whatever you want to call it. And with my gifts here, my parcels, my boxes, whatever you want to call them, I'll colour these in with the markers, and I'm going to use the same markers that I used on my balloons, I'm going to actually use on my gifts. So I'm keeping the color palette the same. And what I'll do then when I have these colored in is I'll take a white gel pen and I will do some dots, I will do some swirls, I will do some stripes, and just, you know, make my own wrapping paper using my gel pen. Now, you could use your alcohol markers to make different colors and different stripes. The gel pens come in white, silver, gold, black, do you know? So yeah, just let your imagination fly. That's what I did. I didn't focus too much on my light source either. The balloons, they have inked places where, you know, you would have the shine from the light. You can see there, I didn't go with that. I just had my balloons lighter in the middle and darker around the edges, because at the end of the day, the person I give this card to isn't going to look at the balloons or look at the parcels and go, the light there, the way they have that shaded, it's not one, you know, that's not right. Or they're not going to do that. Most people will look at it, see lovely coloured balloons, and that's it. You may have some crafty friends who are really good who might look at it in that way, but at the same time, what they're going to think is, what a lovely card from a crafty, creative friend. We don't judge here. And you know what? If you give a card to someone and they don't like it, or they don't think it's very good, do you know what? Just don't give them a handmade card going forward. Don't give them any card going forward. But yeah, that's what I do. Now we have our colouring done. We're going to, I'm going to show you the marker colours that I used here in a moment. You can pause it, or again, have a look down in the description. But let's move on now and assemble our card. So we have our wrap piece, and this is the smaller of the two. I go over the score lines that are on this piece with my scoring board. I like to just go over them to ensure I get a nice crease. So we're going to fold them. They're all mountain folds, the two score lines that are on there. And I'm going to score them or burnish them really well. So I have that done there. Next, we want to have a look at this piece here. Now, this little piece here is going to sit in here and it'll slide up and down. But where it's die cut, they can be a little bit rough, and sometimes they can catch and it can make the mechanism a little stiff to use. I have a piece of a tea light. This is just a white tea light. It's not scented. I've burnt it down. I think you can see there that it has been burnt down. And I just take this piece and I run it along the edge. This is something that Sam encourages you to do when you're doing a kinetic card. I totally agree with this. A lot of people tend to leave this piece out, and I recommend really strongly that you don't. I think this is a really clever thing, and it really helps your mechanism. So I've run it along there, and I'm going to run it along the edge of this piece because this piece is going to slide as well. You can take a cloth then, or a tissue. I like to use a tissue, and I just burnish that really well. You can do it on your desk or you can do it in your hand, but I just burnish it. Now what it does is it makes the cardstock shiny, but it also makes everything smoother and glide easier. So I totally recommend, don't leave this piece out. And it moves so much easier. Now, this is the rough side and this is the smooth side. I put the smooth side in there. You can do it either way, but this is how I like to do it. Next, we want to fold this in half. So what I like to do is I like to cut a bit off, and Sam recommends it, but I do agree with it. So I have moved this over. You can see this here is on the left hand side, and I'm going to cut what's hanging outside in half, roughly. You don't need to measure it, but about half. Then what you want to do is move this piece back so that it has the same amount hanging over, more or less, and then fold this over. Now I'm bringing it right down. You can see we have a big piece here and a little gap there. I'm going to fold this over nicely. I don't want it too tight. I don't want it too loose. I just want it to fold over there nicely. And then I'm going to do the same to this side. I'm going to fold it over nicely and keep it straight. And then I'm going to burnish those folds. Just give them a little rub down. And then you should find these slide really well. Now, if you find it's kind of catching or a bit rough, take this out, run your candle wax up and down again, and make sure when you're doing it, you do it along this edge and along that edge on both sides. Then all you need to do is bring this piece down to the end, put it straight across and glue it together. Now, what I like to do is I like to take a little piece of double-sided tape. I'll cut a piece of that off and I'll add that on there. And then I'll take off the release paper and I will take my liquid glue, and I'm using the CraftStash quick grab glue. You can use Cosmic Shimmer or the Tonic, whichever you like, and I'll put a little bit of glue there. You don't want this to ooze out and onto this part because you don't want it glued together. This needs to move. I'll add a little bit of glue then over my double-sided tape, and then I will just fold that down and catch that there. If any of your glue oozes out, rub it off, take your anti-static bag, give it a rub, but you don't want any glue around there at all. Now, my double-sided tape has cut the piece. My liquid glue will embed between the cardstock below and the cardstock above. And for me, I find it just ensures that that's glued in. It's not going to go anywhere. Do you need to go to that extreme? No, a bit of glue would be fine, or even a bit of tape, but I like to use the two. And you can see there my mechanism is working beautifully. So now, I'll put my little glue pin back in my bottle so it doesn't dry out. This piece now is going to go in here. What we're going to do is we're going to add this piece on. This is going to go in here and that's going to get glued on there. And then this is going to get glued closed. So we're going to take our sentiment. Again, I'm going to add a little piece of double-sided tape and I'm going to add that on there into the middle. I'll cut off the excess because we won't need it. I'm going to take off the release paper. I'm going to make sure this is down at the bottom. I'm going to again add my glue. I don't want any of this glue to ooze out past this piece of cardstock so that our mechanism is going to work. So don't be overly generous with it. Now, this is down in place. I'll move that out so you can see it really well. The edge of this here is going to sit with the edge of this, and we're going to center it in the middle. If you have done it long ways, it'll sit down like that. Make sure it's not all on one side or the other. It needs to be in the middle. But I am doing mine in this orientation. So if I keep this end up, I can see where the center is, and then I can slide it up along and bring my edge there to the bottom edge of the sliding mechanism. And because we've used our tape is going to grab it, and then we have our glue in there, and our glue is going to stick down. So make sure it's nice and straight, and once you have that in place then, and it's stuck down, you can then pop that in here. So it's going to sit in there like so. So if you look on the back now, you can't see where our mechanism is, but if we pull it, that's what you're going to see. So we're going to sit that in here. Now you can take a little piece of double-sided tape there if you want. I have nice thin double-sided tape, and again for the video I'm going to add a piece of this on. It'll just help it to grab quicker. You can just use glue. Sam just uses liquid adhesive for this part. If you have a strong double-sided tape, you could just use that. I'm going to use a little bit of both. And so I'll take off my release paper. I'm going to tuck that in there, and I'm making sure the edge of this piece lines up with the edge of my card. It's set in the middle there nicely. I'll put a little bit of glue in here. And then I will fold that over. So my card is up against the crease there. It's nice and straight. Take your time. You're not in a race. Fold that over and then rub it down. And burnish it with your burnishing tool, because that'll help it attach there. Now, Sam normally puts a little bit of glue along here, then folds that over. I've just added glue to here. Again, you can use, actually I'm going to use again a little piece of double-sided tape. Again, you don't need to do this. You can just use the liquid adhesive if you want. Sam just uses liquid adhesive. I like using both. And then I can add my glue along there. And I have a fine tip nozzle on it. I don't want glue oozing out everywhere. Now Sam puts the same amount of glue as this over here. I didn't do it with the card I showed you that I had made earlier. So I'm not going to do it again, but it's up to you. You can put glue on both sides if you want, but I just do it with the one. So again, I'm going to burnish that down just to ensure that it's stuck. And then when we pull this up, that slides up and down. Absolutely lovely. So if you had glued this side down, it will pinch on that. So it's up to yourself whether you want to glue it down. I haven't done it, so just whatever you think yourself. Okay, so we have that wrap done. I'm now going to move on to the other wrap. So again, I've burnished my two score lines there. I'm going to fold them over and burnish those. I mean, I've scored them. I've used my scoreboard to go over those score lines, and now I'm burnishing them. So again, we have this piece here now. We want to... I had to stop and think there for a minute, what comes next? We're going to now take this piece and we're going to add our strip, our mechanism strip in. But before I do that, I'm again going to use my wax. I'm again going to do exactly what I did with the previous one, but I'm just going to speed this up for you. So again, we're going to slide our mechanism strip in here. And I'm putting it on the die cut side up. That's just my preference. You could put it in any way you like. We're going to fold it over again on this side and fold it over on that side. And you can see here now we have a smaller amount to glue down. So I'm just making sure my track is running really nicely. I'm happy with that. I'm going to take a little piece of double-sided tape. I'm going to add that on here. I'll cut off the excess. I'm going to add my liquid adhesive to this. So that should be perfect. And I'll add a little pressure and then check it again. Slides nicely. Perfect. So now this piece is going to attach to our mechanism. So before I add this on here, I want to take my second piece and I'm going to glue that down. So now this piece has glued down. Next I want to take my mechanism and I want to take a ruler and I want to mark halfway on that. So my pattern paper measures 3.5. So I'm going to mark the middle of that, which is 1 3/4. So I have my mark there. Now this piece is going to sit on here, and the edge, the folded over edge, is what's going to sit against my line. So you can draw your line a little bit long there so you'll know. You won't see this piece. Again, I'm going to add a little bit of my candle wax to that edge, and I'm going to burnish that really well because that's going to be sliding up and down. And I'm also going to add a little bit to the inside as well. You mightn't feel you need to do this, that's up to you. But for me, I like to do it. I find if it'll help with my sliding, then that's what I'll do. So this piece is going to get glued on there. Now I'm going to, again, I'm going to add a little piece of double-sided tape and a little piece of glue. And I'm going to put it onto one side of that little tab, and then I'll take the release paper off, add my little bit of liquid glue, and I'm going to stick it down against our mark. Now I'm going to bring it down to the edge here of my matte layer, and I'm going to give that a minute to glue down. I'm going to add a little stamping block over that and just give that a minute now to dry. So while this is drying, I'm going to move on to this mechanism here, which is all ready to go. I'm going to add some double-sided tape to this piece, and I'll add a little bit of liquid glue, and it's the same as what we did on the previous wrap, so I'm going to speed through that. So now what we need to do again is take the edge here and sit it to the edge here of our mechanism. We want to ensure that it isn't too far to the left or too far to the right. It needs to be right in the middle. And that's the handy thing about using a little bit of liquid glue. Just make sure that's set down there. And we just want to add a little bit of pressure to that and make sure it's set down. Now while that is gluing and sticking down, I'm going to move on to the front wrap of our card and our piece here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of double-sided tape and I'm just going to stick that down to basically the other side of where our piece is there, and I'm going to glue this down, and then I'm going to take my ruler and my craft knife, which I hate using. I'm always afraid of my life. I'm going to cut myself, like it's a real fear. And I probably won't, but you could use cutting tool, the CraftStash cut and scoreboard. You could use that, line up with your track and cut it if you want. There's lots of them out in the market, Spellbinders and all them, they have one. So whatever way you want to cut your opening is up to yourself. I'm going to do it, like I said, with my cutting blade, my craft blade. So you want to make sure that this is down nice and glue it down nice and well. And we should have an even border all the way around. And because we've put our tape in here, it'll help it now to grab nicely. And then we can, it's a little bit high there. I should have really, anyway. So we have that now in place. So what I want to do is get my craft knife, my ruler, and I have the Tonic Studio, the Tim Holtz ruler. It's got a metal edge here, and I'm going to cut down through that. Now, I need to put a cutting surface under here, so I'm going to do that. So I'm cutting my slot here now, and try and be as neat and tidy as you can, because whether you're using the balloons or something else as your sliding piece, you do want it to be tidy. So do try and be as tidy as you can. So now we'll pop our little tab in. So we're lining our card down here. We're bringing this all the way down, and we want to make sure that that is lined up there like that, which it is. So if we pull now, that will come up like so. So you just need to make sure that this piece goes past there. So we have our piece here now. We want to add that in to our wrap. So our little slot, our little mechanism needs to go through our slot. Make sure that's through on the other side, and then add on this piece, and that needs to sit in there. So onto our tab here, I'm going to put my double-sided tape, and then onto that my liquid glue. I'll fold that over, and you can see there that fits perfect. And then on top of that, I'm going to add double-sided tape. I'm going to add a little liquid glue. And like I said before, Sam adds a little liquid glue down along here. I'm not going to, so it's up to yourself. And I'm going to wrap that around like so. And again, I'm going to use my burnishing tool, and I'm going to add a little pressure to that just to make sure that it sticks down in place. And then we have our piece, which slides up and down. So all we need to do now is add our decorations onto this, and add this onto our 5x7 top folding card. Now, I would recommend you put a mat and layer on the inside of your card base. I didn't do that on this one, but I did add an extra piece of 300 GSM onto the back. So it's up to yourself which you want to do, but I think we have so much weight on the front that it does help it to stick. And what I also do is I add a little bit of glue to the back, and I add a single strip of foam tape. And it's a thin foam tape, it's not too deep, it's about 2 millimeters. So I'm going to add some foam to the back. So once I have my 2 pieces of foam strips just either side, I'll add some liquid glue over that for wiggle room. Again, some liquid glue just down the middle of that, and then stick that down into place. Now I can add my balloons to my little tab, and that I'm going to do next. I'll use a little bit of double-sided tape on that little tab and some liquid glue. I've also put a little curve behind my gift box to ensure that it slides behind my pile of gifts. I've also given that a little bit of curve or bend in the middle to make sure that the gift box on my balloons slides down behind it. And there we are. There is our triple slider mechanism cards with an extra slider. So is it a quadruple slider? We've got our holiday pigs. I just love that. And then we have our birthday balloons. And just remember to add a little curve there so that they'll slide underneath. I know you can't see. Let me try and get it all in again. So we pull this one up, our balloons come up. It is such a mantle pleaser. It is brilliant. I do love it. We've decorated the inside of our cards. I just stamped the balloons in a very pale grey. It's the Morning Mist Versifying Claire. And then on our holiday one, I have stamped Happy Piggin' Christmas, and we've got our pigs with the bunting inside. So I think you'll agree these are two really cool cards, whether you want it for a Christmas or for a birthday. You can use whatever you have in your stash to pretty these up. And yeah, I love them. I think this is one that I will make regularly. I enjoy it so much. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. If you have, do give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber to my channel, Blonde Cards and Crafts, and ding the bell so you'll be notified next time I share another video. If you make this style of card using whatever products you have in your stash, but if you make this style of card, please do share it on my group, my Facebook group called Your Cards and Crafts. Links are down below in the description. There's also a little button down there. It's a thanks button. I would love for you to click on that. It will help to support my channel. So that's it. Measurements, links, other videos. They're linked in the description. I'm going to leave it there, folks. Have a great week, and until next time, bye for now. Bye bye.